Today I greet you from Jefferson Theological Seminary in Papua New Guinea. I am Pastor Simeon Kalinoe. My present sermon is about sleeping with a goat in your bed. John 20 verse 22 to 23. And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, the sins of everyone you forgive are forgiven them. The sins of anyone you do not forgive are held unforgiven. John 20 verse 22 to 23. There are men and women, believers who truly love God, who are going to bed each night with a goat. To understand this statement and the danger of sleeping with a goat, we need to understand the use and purpose of God in the Old Testament. On the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, annual customary event for the Jews, two identical goats were selected to stand before the high priest. One goat was marked for the Lord and was slain on the brass altar, and the other was a scapegoat. Compare Leviticus 16 verse 7 to 10. The high priest placed his hands upon the goat's head, transferring the sins of Israel upon the goat. Afterwards, the goat was led to the wilderness by another priest and eventually pushed over a cliff on a hill 12 miles from Jerusalem called Mount of Azazel. The name is said to mean strong and mighty, referring to the large mountain from which the goat was pushed and met its death. The name Azazel was considered to be the name of demon that carries with it the sin of Israel back to Satan, a thought that is found in the ancient book of Old Testament. Compare Matthew 22 verse 21. The reason for using two goats were: the first goat atoned for people's sin on the altar. The scapegoat was sent out to remove the sins of the people from their presence to its original owner, the demon. The blood of the first goat brought forgiveness, and the second scapegoat brought cleansing and righteousness. In Matthew chapter 18 verse 22, Jesus said, I tell you, you must forgive him more than 7 times. You must forgive him even if he wrongs you. 70 times 7, Matthew 18 verse 22. And in the New Testament, Jesus was teaching his disciples about the importance of forgiving a person who offends them. As often as possible, ask for forgiveness. We must be willing to forgive. After Christ's resurrection, he gave a very interesting statement to his disciples. John 20 verse 22 to 23. This speaks to us of an individual who sins against us personally, of course, and opens with us. When a believer or non-believer asks for your forgiveness for a trespass or an offense, when you forgive them, forgiveness immediately occurs. However, if you refuse to forgive them, those sins are retained by us, not forgiven. Having right eye with wrong brain. Matthew 6 verse 22. The eye is the light for the body. Your whole eyes are good. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. Matthew 6 verse 22. This is a very interesting verse, Christ said, and this is true in both the physical and spiritual realm. Christ knew that the eye is the door into the soul and spirit. He was actually speaking of spiritual matters, that the lamp of the body is the eye. We have to take care of our eyes, of what we see, because our eyes always reveals problem to the body. Our eyes views image that are in turn related to the brain, whereas the brain begins processing mental impressions that judges what it has received, what it means, and the effect to the viewer. Our eyes see natural elements, but spiritual eyes represent the ability to discern actions. Your eyes cannot lie, because you saw it. What you say is always true. The brain is an amazing creation. Billions and bits of information bombard into it every second, and filters in the brain keep it from becoming overloaded. Approximately 2,000 bits of information per second enters the brain. Every thought enters the brain, produces electrochemical reaction in the brain. Signals from the brain are what releases chemicals, some with positive effects on the body, while others produce negative effects on the organ of the body. Dull ears with dumb minds. John 6, verse 54. Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood have eternal life, and I will raise them up on the last day. It is astonishing how at times religious folks hear what they wish and everything they hear with a twist. Christ was speaking to the communion service when he said believers should eat his flesh and drink his blood to have eternal life. John 6, verse 54. The message was sent to everyone except the disciples of Christ, running out of the temple with the thought that Christ was breaking the law of Moses, and it forbids drinking any form of blood. Christ was using an analogy of his body and predicting that they would destroy the temple. You will build it back in 3 days. The Jews misread the statement and went around saying Christ said he would destroy the temple and the temple building, and he will build it back within 3 days. John 2, verse 19. When Jesus confronted a Samaritan prostitute at a well, Jesus spoke of water he would provide that will never make a person thirsty again. The woman began asking Jesus where his bucket was to fetch the water. Jesus was speaking spiritually as he was thinking naturally. John 4, verse 6 to 15. Even Christ cured a sick on the Sabbath. Instead of rejoicing in the miracle, the Pharisees began complaining that Jesus healed a man on the Sabbath day. Matthew 12, verse 10 to 12. Jesus' statements were misunderstood by those who often didn't have spiritual discernment. Jesus failed to identify the problem this way, and in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah 6, verse 9 to 10, which said, "By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For these people's heart is waxed coarse, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes have closed." This anytime they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their hearts, and should be converted, and I should heal them. Matthew 10, verse 14 to 15. The power of life or death is in your mouth. Proverbs 18, verse 21, KJV. The life or death are in the power of the tongue. Life or death are in the power of your tongue, and they that love it shall have the fruit thereof. In Proverbs, Psalms 141, verse 3, Pharaoh reminds us that we need to set God about the mouth. Set God over my mouth, Lord. Keep words over the door of my lips. James 3, verse 6 to 9. The tongue is supreme, sword of evil, and no one can tame it. The Bible indicates that life of flesh in the blood, Leviticus 17, verse 11. It is known for many years that all diseases in human body can be discovered in the blood. Since life of the flesh is in the blood, how do anger, stress, and negative emotions affect the blood itself? First, we must know that anger causes high blood pressure and cut immune system. If all the majority of sickness disease is found in the blood, then your healing is connected with your willingness to forgive others and keep your blood strong. Forgive others and ask God to create you a pure spirit and renew a steadfast spirit in you. Psalms 51, verse 10.